welcome back for another month of Level Up Razor's Edge, a Razor's Edge webinar. This month is very popular. We're going to be talking about reporting. So we are so happy. Thank you all for registering, and thank you for submitting all of the wonderful questions. As always, we do our best to kind of categorize the questions and address as many of them as possible. So know that if we don't address your question specifically, that'll give us some fuel for a webinar later on in the series. Or any follow-up that we're able to do. All right. So our coaches today, myself, my name is Kevin Wood. I'm the Director of Sales here at NPact. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I spent 15 years in the nonprofit world as a Razor's Edge database manager before joining NPact. I worked at a university, I worked at a hospital foundation, and then I worked at a high school here in Cincinnati. I've been a Razor's Edge consultant with NPact this whole time I've been here, and now moving on to a little bit more of a sales role, but still delivering a bunch of Razor's Edge consulting work. So I will turn it over to Christine for her introduction.
Hey everybody, I'm Christine Robertson. I'm the consulting manager here at NPact. That means I do Razor's Edge consulting, a little bit of virtuous work as well, but we're not here to talk about that. And I also help oversee our team of consultants and a wide range of products. I'm based in sunny Charlotte, North Carolina, and fun to see a few of you from my area popping in the chat. Looking forward to talking about Razor's Edge reports with you today.
And we don't have to brag that it's sunny. Not all of us are experiencing the sun right now, but that's okay.
I just saw somebody say that the chat isn't working for them. Feel free to pop your questions in chat or Q&A, either one. We will do our best to message you in the respective areas and keep up with everything. We'll also go back and follow up as much as we can after the webinar is over.
Yeah, one of the things that we've experienced when moving from Zoom to Teams is that sometimes the guests, like your all's internal kind of whatever, doesn't allow you to use the chat. I'm not sure why, but yeah, feel free to drop it in the chat or the Q&A or Messenger Pigeon or however you want to get us the question. We'll do our best to answer and address that. So our batting order for today, very simple. Questions for you, then questions for us. And we're going to start off with a poll question. How long have you used Razor's Edge? Let me get that poll launched. We'd love to see the answers to this question. We typically get folks joining our webinar from all different experience levels of Razor's Edge. I love seeing the 10 plus years because we're never too old to learn something new. So hopefully we're able to provide you with some content today to teach you something. Nice. 10 plus years is winning right now. That makes me very, very happy. It says the bot is disabled. Yeah, I'm not, we'll try to get that squared away.
Yes, and somebody did ask in the Q&A, we will be recording today's webinar. We will send everybody a recording afterwards as well as the slides, just to make sure you all got that bit of information.
Yep. Cool. Well, thanks for those responses. So a little bit about kind of where we're coming from here. Here at NPact, we're a Blackbaud channel partner. That doesn't necessarily give us any more insider information than what you all probably know about what's available in Razor's Edge, database view versus web view. So we do not have any additional knowledge that we're going to be able to share in that regard. One place that we really encourage you to look is when you log into Razor's Edge NXT in the web view, that very first tile that you see on your home screen has the what's new. That is the best place to look for new functionality that's being released, and also functionality that's moving from database view to web view and so on. There's also, Blackbaud also does, I think, quarterly product update briefings. The next one is scheduled for May. So we have when I send out the slide deck, this will be a hyperlink to register for that product update briefing. It's always a good idea to join those just to kind of see what's on the roadmap, and what's kind of coming down the road for new functionality in Razor's Edge.
Absolutely.
So our key players. Christina, I'll let you take it over from here.
So as we were going through questions that were submitted for today, one of the things that we wanted to make sure we defined for everybody and made sure we're all on the same page about is what we're talking about when we're talking about reports today. And we decided to add a couple links to this. So again, when you get the slides, you will have a little bit more documentation here. So reports, the link here will go to Blackbaud definition of reports, but we're talking about the standardized reports that give you analysis of data. We're not talking about queries, which is the next on our list here. Queries is a grouping tool that allows you to group together specific records. You can use those groups for a mailing list and an export. You can use those groups as part of a report as a way to make your report more specific or to identify certain things. But the query is not the report. Lists are another thing that we see often in Razor's Edge, and it's another grouping tool. It's similar to query, but it is a less robust tool in many ways, and it's more of a filter-based tool than technically a query-based tool. It has access to fewer fields, and you can't do quite as much manipulation in it as far as grouping different things and saying these two things together, but not this other thing, items like that. Exports are currently just in database view, but exports must be linked to a query, and they allow you to pull that information from the query out of Razor's Edge. You can manipulate what data you see. Sometimes people will use an export and call it a report, and sometimes that's the best that you can do for what you need in a certain situation. So I'm not going to say it's never a report, but what I am going to say is that for the purposes of what we're doing today, exports are not reports. We want to really focus on the standardized reports and the options that exist in those reports. So if an export would better meet your needs, that's absolutely something we could help you with outside of this webinar. But I just want to make sure we're defining what we're doing and how we're referring to these things so you have an expectation of what we're going to talk about. The last thing that can sometimes be called a report that we're not going to talk about today as well are the dashboards. There are actually 3 different places where you can have dashboards in Razor's Edge. One is in database view. It looks straight out of the 1990s, but if you want to play around with it and use it, you're always certainly welcome to, for as long as we have it. And then in WebView, you have 2 different types of dashboards. There are fundraising dashboards that Blackbaud has pre-built that you can filter and look at some nice graphs and things like that. Those are really functional and great. Again, that link is here. There are also some Insight Designer-based dashboards in WebView that you can do more customizing and filtering in. Again, just because those aren't part of those standardized reports, we're not going to be digging into them today. That doesn't mean we won't dig into them at another time. Same with the exports, just that we can't do everything in 45 minutes. So those are kind of our terms, and just to kind of give you an idea of where we're going to go today.
All right. So into our rookies of the year. As we talk about functionality and different things moving over from web, database view to web view, one of the things that is new to, I think, potentially everyone, but so something you'll see in web view is that there are some standard reports that are slowly moving over. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about these. A lot of them, and we're gonna just point out 3 of them. I think it's ones that we all are very familiar with, but I at least want to show you what it looks like, and kind of so you can get a kind of comparison of this versus how you do it in database view. And you see it says preview up here. This is in our NPact sandbox that we have. So we have it over here under standard reporting. You also see we have this left nav now instead of the top nav. Again, I don't know how they're rolling it out to different clients. So you may still have the navigation across the top. Others may have it down the side. And then they've kind of reorganized some of these fields as well. So standard reports are under analysis. And as we click through these are categorized just like they were in database view. But as you see, as I click on these drop downs, we're only talking about a handful of reports that are available. And, potentially maybe even some of you guys have more reports than what you're seeing on the screen. Again, I really don't know. So the first one that when I'm doing training for reporting, I almost exclusively start at the gift detail and summary report. In my opinion, this is one of the most powerful reports we have available for us in in Razor's Edge across the board. This has so much functionality within a development office, but as well on the finance office as well. At my old job, when we did our monthly reconciliation, I often started with a gift detail and summary report, just because we can kind of slice and dice our giving in a bunch of different ways. So I'm going to click on new here. And again, if you are used to the database view, the kind of the tabs across the top are pretty much the same. But like everything else, when it's in this new format, the filters just look a little different. So I like to point this out because I just mentioned reconciliation reports just a little bit ago. If you do keep track of your deposit dates or your posting dates from RE to FE or to your accounting system, this first dropdown is super important, because for a lot of reasons, and oftentimes gift dates that you enter into Razor's Edge, the date that the organization receives the money, is oftentimes and a lot of the times different than the date that it hits the GL. And so you can keep track of that separately on a gift record. That's what it's there for. And you can also report on it separately as well. So this is the first thing to point out, is that you can report off of gift date or GL post date, either one. So pick that. And then we have our time range, our time filters. This is, again, you can pick any range of dates that you want. We typically like to see maybe this month or this fiscal year as a popular option. Soft credits are in here as well. We're not going to go through that again. And inactive, no valid, addressed, and deceased. Yeah, so kind of going across the top. This is a new thing in this version of the report. So you can include maiden name if you want, and include brought forward total from in the start date minus one as the end date. Okay, that's new to me. I don't exactly know what that is, but I don't know. We're going to continue. So our campaign funds and appeal filters, we can do all here. Now, one of the things that we're going to talk about later on in the webinar today is using queries in addition to reportings or with your reports. A lot of these, especially on this tab here, a lot of these filters, you can go through and manually select appeals and funds if you want to, do them one at a time. But what happens when you add a new fund or a new campaign or a new appeal and you want to go back and run this report again? You then have to remember to go to the filters and manually add those newly added records. So the way to kind of get around that, or the way to avoid doing that, is using a query. So we could set up a like a fund query, for example, that says, fund category equals unrestricted. And so that's a dynamic query that's going to update when you run this report. And so as long as you're keeping track of that fund category when you create the fund, then any new fund that hits that category of unrestricted is going to fall into this query and then fall into the report. And then you don't have to go back and manually edit it. So that's something that's very important and something of note here, that we have the option of selecting individual records or using a query. Gift types work exactly the same way. One of the things that's nice about this report is you can report on specific gift types across the report on columns. And so the way that I like to set this up is, like, I have column 1, that's all my cash and all my pay caches. Column 2 is all my stock property. Column 3 could be pledge balance, or gift in kind maybe, and then column 4 could be matching gift. But it's a good way to, especially when you're trying to reconcile cash deposits, you can have that column of all the cash that was deposited, and separate it out by column. To be honest with you, looking at this and using this, I still like the database view reporting just a little bit better, because it's just easier to use in my opinion. But I think as time goes on, and we get feedback, and Blackbaud gets feedback on this reporting, I think they're going to probably update it a little bit as well. What else? Is there anything else I want to point out about this? Yeah, so This is called a gift, detail, and summary report. So detail will obviously report on donors, and so you'll see the output of the report will just be a list of donors, and you could do summary as well. And when you select summary and go over to your format, to your details, this is where you can define what kind of reports you can generate or what you're summarizing on. And so if I run this right now, I'm just going to get a fund summary, but I have the option of reporting on all of these different categories here: campaign, fund, appeal, and constituent code. Okay, I'm gonna make sure we go on to the next one. I don't want to spend that much time on every report, but again, I think this is one of the most important reports that we can run because it helps everybody. Everybody. Okay, the next one is donor category report. This is great, a great place to start. Oh, Tina, that's awesome. Standard report showed up for you yesterday. Yeah, donor category report is a great place to start for an honor roll. Um, through through your tables. I'm going to jump over here to tables. One thing you have to set up first before you're able to run a donor category report are your donor categories. And those are right here. And so just out of the box, Razor's Edge, I think, comes with these three kind of open tables that you're able to edit. But I'm going to click into one of these so you can see kind of how it's set up. So if you imagine maybe it's an annual giving society or it's a lifetime giving society, you can set up these categories to say if they give up to a certain amount, put them in this category. If they give between here and here, put them in this category. But then you can see kind of how it's built up. So it goes $0 to $10 as a friend, 10 to 250 as a curator, and so on. So you have to set up the table first. Once you set up the table, you can go back into your reports. And I'm just going to hit a new one here. And I'm not going to go through these filters again because a lot of our donation filters are all kind of the same in terms of what different settings you can have. But what I wanted to point out is you can select which table you want to run the report on. So again, if you have an annual giving society, a major giving, a lifetime, you can create those tables and then run this report based off of those categories. And then time frame as well. So if it could be an annual giving society or again, lifetime, you could include all the dates. I think that was the important thing I wanted to point out about this report. Lastly is a new donors report. I love a new donors report because often this is a great stewardship piece. So you can run this new donors report once a month at the end of the month and say, show me all of everyone who has been a first-time donor to our organization this month. And what that's going to do is you can run this report, print it off, give it to your development director, or give it to your annual giving person. And now we have a call list of personal thank yous or personal emails that we need to do that we can make for these people. So this is a really powerful stewardship report. And if you were here, if you've been here with us for months, we did a workflow webinar probably in, I don't know, July, August, September timeframe. And we talked about this because this is a really good place to start for a workflow because, and again, we'll talk about an output query later, but I just want to know, little teaser here. A lot of these reports can generate an output query. So if I select this, everyone that would fall into this report could be placed in a query. We can take that to a list. We can take that to a workflow, and we can create emails. And now you can kind of see how it builds, and that automation can be built. Okay, so I think those were the three that I wanted to touch on. Now I'm going to turn over to Christine.
Thank you. So wanted to kind of highlight a few reports that we wanted or that helped answer some of the questions that we had from you all in the questions submitted prior to the webinar. Sorry, couldn't get those words quite out there today. So the first two that I want to showcase are the cash flow report and the pledge status report. And Kevin, if you don't mind, would you go ahead and show those in database view for us?
Yep. Find the cash flow. Yep.
So we're going to go to database view reports, and then they're under the pledge and recurring gift. So the pledge status report will show you basically where the pledge is right now. Is is there a balance? Has it been written off? You can set it for just outstanding. You can set it for any pledges within a certain time frame. So this gives you a chance to look at your pledges from that standpoint. You can choose your soft credits or not. And a lot of organizations will use this as a way to help balance their pledges between finance and development, things like that. So definitely a report that we want to highlight for anyone who's working on reports for your pledges. There's a lot of functionality in this, so we won't be able to go through every single detail, but I would strongly encourage you to look at it. The other one for pledges, and actually also for recurring gifts that I want to highlight is the cash flow. So if you wouldn't mind opening it. The difference between the pledge status and the cash flow is the pledge status is really a picture of what does your pledge look like? How much has been paid? When was the pledge made? Is it written off? What do we expect to receive? The cash flow actually allows you to set out different report periods and indicate what income you expect to see throughout those periods. So when I was a database manager at an organization, I had a cash flow set up for every month of my fiscal year. And I would submit that to my finance department, and it would show what do we expect. Now, you may want to include both pledges and recurring gifts. You may not want to include both of those. You could also include matching gift pledges if you count them as such and want to work with that. So this is a way for you to project income from those types of gifts in a report form. So I wanted to highlight those two as an answer to pledges. The next thing that I do want to highlight from that slide is the LIBUNT and the SIBUNT. And those are actually under our analytical, still here in database view for now. LIBUNT, if you're new to fundraising, LIBUNT is last year, but unfortunately not this. SIBUNT is some year, but unfortunately not this. So these are two canned reports that allow you to go in, set your criteria, and pull a list of records for donors who gave last year but haven't given this year, or who gave some other year but haven't given this year. As you can see, Kevin is changing those around. We can work with fiscal year, we can work with calendar year. In database view, as long as your fiscal year has been set up correctly, then you can work with the fiscal year and it will work with your fiscal year. Kevin, if you wouldn't mind going back to the slides, I remembered those were my next two, but I know we've got a couple more on that list. And
comparatives up next.
I need to refresh my memory on the slides. Sorry. Comparative report. That's it. Perfect. So let's go back to database view. We're going to look at that comparative report. So the comparative report allows us to look at two different time periods next to each other. I don't know why you can't make that bigger and see both of the periods at the same time.
They're frustrating.
This is also a database view, so I don't expect that we'll see a change in that. But you could look at last year versus this year. You can go through, set up some different settings and do some comparisons there. Similar to that, but one I like to highlight is the comparison and summary report. So if you want to go ahead and you're going to close that, and we're actually going to go down to demographic and statistical reports and comparisons and summaries. So one of the little known things that I find is useful here is there's actually under the fields, we can set this to do a summary for the months in the year. So if you want to see what you've raised for each month, we can click on the months in the year. You can use constituent code. Yep, months in the year. That's the one I was going for. That will actually allow us to set up report periods. We could set this up to run what have we received for the annual fund in each month for this year. Just go ahead and you'd set that up and you can run that and do a comparison. I've got some clients doing that so they can see where they are with their annual fund as of now, what's come in each month this year, what does that look like?
That question gets asked a lot in the Facebook user group.
A lot. It does, and this is a great way to do it. Now, this is a canned report in database view, so obviously it comes out in a PDF, and trying to get it into Excel is a bit of a challenge, but it does get you the information and it does make life a little bit easier. So just wanted to highlight that. And then can you go back to our slide one more time? I know there was one more report on there that I wanted to make sure that we got to. Oh, How could
Class.
I
Yep.
forget? Parent class analysis and alumni class analysis. For those of you who are at schools, I apologize for those of you who aren't, but we wanted to make sure we highlighted these two reports. These are two of the things that Razor's Edge does exceptionally well as far as schools are concerned, with being able to see what your giving looks like for your parent class, for parents who have kids who are currently enrolled or alumni who have graduated, as well as your alumni class giving. The parent report allows you to filter, as you can see from this screen, on parent constituent codes, children constituent codes. You can work with children class years. You can, even on the format tab at the very end, you can decide what you want to do when you have more than one child per family. Do you want to attribute it to their oldest child, to their youngest child, split it evenly among their children? Those are all things I know that schools struggle to identify and work with, and I think that report really makes it a lot easier. The alumni class analysis is very similar, except for the fact that it removes the parents from the equation and it says, what are our alumni doing? How are our alumni engaging with us, and what are they contributing across the board? So those are just certainly a lot of different reports that we've thrown at you. And there are so many other reports here in database view that we don't see them all moving into WebView yet. I don't know for sure. Kevin, like Kevin said at the beginning, we don't have an inside track. We don't know which reports Blackbaud will or won't move. But hopefully we'll see a lot of these moving over there, because there's so many different tools here that are useful and give us a lot of answers that we need to do our jobs.
Yeah, and I'll add one thing, because again, thinking from a stewardship standpoint, or even for a solicitation standpoint, oftentimes we'll get requests from our development directors to say, "Hey, can you run the YBunt report for me?" Um, yeah, I certainly can, and this will show me everyone who gave a gift last year but hasn't given us a gift this year. But something also that they may not know they want to ask about, and why I love talking about the comparative report in the same kind of discussion as LiveBunts, is that running a comparative report as well is very helpful in that discussion, because you can look at someone that may be an annual donor of $1,000 a year, but they gave, for some other reason, they gave a $10 gift this year. Well, they're not going to show up on a LiveBunt report because they're not a LiveBunt. They gave last year, but they gave this year, so they're not a LiveBunt yet. But on a comparative report, that will come to the surface. You'll see last year they gave $1,000, and you'll see this year they gave 10. In one of the summary filters, let's see, that's here. You can display the variance of the one period to the next period. And excuse me, as a percentage or a currency. So it's really good to look at the percentage increase or decrease, so that you can kind of find those people that have this huge drop off, or even find people to thank that have a huge increase. So yeah, there's two reports. Now back to our slides. Next up, triple plays. Again, if you didn't have enough baseball puns, here's one more. So Christine and I were putting this together earlier this week, and I was trying to kind of put this in words of what I mean by triple play, and maybe it's a double play, I don't know. But I was trying to say, like, what are ways that you can use a report and then you do something else with it. And so I mentioned earlier about output queries, and I think that's also another. I'm just going to mention it again, because there's a lot of, as we go through our reports, there's a lot of places where you can create a query with this, an output query with this. And oftentimes it'll give you, depending on what you're reporting on, it'll give you the option of doing a constituent query or a gift query. This will make a static query, so it's point in time information of the people that will fit into this report when you run it, which is great. But as Christine mentioned earlier, a lot of the output of these reports are PDFs. And while it's great to have PDFs, they aren't the best to do data manipulation on. And so oftentimes, again, your development director asks you for a report, you run it for them, and then they're saying, oh, let me find out, can you provide me some more information about these people? Phone number, email address, giving history, whatever the case is, grad year maybe. It's difficult to have to go back and recreate that. But if you create a constituent query when you run the report, you can then take it to export and do a number of different things on that information. You can also, as we talk about solicitation, you could also take a static query in database view and make it a list in web view, and take that list to an email marketing campaign and send those people an email. And so you can kind of see how all these ideas that we've been talking about over the months are building on each other to help you kind of do your job, or have other people in your office do their job a little bit more efficiently. The next thing up on that triple play list was using, I already talked about all this stuff, using campaign fund and appeal queries. Again, the first step of that process is actually building the query. It turns your reporting into being more dynamic in nature, so that you're not stuck having to just pick any of these. I have one open already. Not stuck having to go back to your filters, and remembering to add specific funds, that newly added funds that you have added since last time you ran the report. So you'll see this option here. I showed it to you in WebView as well, but this is what that option looks like. It just points to a query search dialog box, and you can pick your, in this case, a fund query to link to that report. And then lastly, I think we were talking about deposit reports. Yeah. So two other reports that we want to kind of touch on. And we had a ton of questions about deposits, or something that we can give to finance. And so these questions typically come from organizations that don't use Financial Edge, that don't have the integration turned on. This discussion is a little bit different when we're fully integrated with Financial Edge. But even if we are, and I mentioned this before about reconciliation, there are two reports that I want to point out, because these will, and the account distribution report is one of them. And you can see down here, this gives you a little snapshot of what the report's going to do, but it will pull general ledger account numbers. Now, a caveat to that is you have to have the general ledger account numbers set up, and that's done on the fund, at the fund level, and on the GL distribution tab. This is information that, as database managers, we don't know what the GL account numbers are. Maybe some of you have a good grasp on that, but oftentimes this information comes from our accounting office, or from our CFO or whomever. This setup needs to be done in conjunction with them. But once we have this set up, one, you need to set up to do your REF integration. But let's say you don't have Financial Edge, you can still set up your debit and credit account numbers. And then when you go to run your account distribution report, it will report on your gifts based off those GL accounts. So you could theoretically give them something, and this is what my old job, I called it the deposit report. This is what I would take to our accountant, she would use that to confirm the journal entry that I sent over through the REF integration. But this is a great report for that. The other one that we talk about when we talk about depositing cash is our cash receipts journal. And this just shows you the breakdown by gift type, by payment type of whatever gifts that you want to look. Again, we can start with a gift query, and we could also just filter on a time period as well. And of note, we can look at gift date, and GL post date is very important to look at when we're talking about this specific report. All right, we've got 9 minutes left. I think we flew through that.
All right, I've got a couple things from chat. One thing
I was going to say that we probably got a bunch.
We've got a bunch, and I do want to apologize in advance for anything that we may or may not get to. We will do our best, but there are a lot of you, and we're excited by that, but that also means we may miss something. There was a question about someone opening database view and clicking on a report and not seeing a report there. Can you just go ahead and show quickly how you add in database view, like what, because like right there at the, so right here on expected, this is what you'll see if no one from your organization has saved a report yet. As soon as you save something, that's how you get it on the right. None of those come pre-built for most of the reports. There may be some exceptions to that, but for the most part, I've not seen Blackbaud save anything there. You can hit,
sorry, real quick. You can hit new. You can also just double click on this row, and it'll bring this up. if new is grayed out, there may be a security issue around being able to create reports. I don't
Yes.
know if that's a security group or a security thing that you can say you can view reports but not add them, but that may be an issue as
Right.
well if new
Yeah,
is
that'd be
grayed out.
something to look at. The other question was if we could look at the membership increase or
Yep.
decrease reports. If you can go ahead and let's do a quick look there.
Which ones?
Well, the message said the increase or decrease report. I don't see one with that, but I'm assuming that might be the renewal report. Sandy, if you
Yeah.
have if I'm assuming wrong, correct me. But I believe that the renewal report might be what you're looking for to see if they increased when they renewed or if they decreased when they renewed. One quick trick about the database view reports that I do want to mention, if you click preview in the bottom right hand corner, that's going to preview your report with your data. Sometimes that can take a while, and if you just want to know what does this look like because I'm not sure if it's the right report or not, that layout button to the right
Good.
of it, it's okay,
Yeah.
Kevin. You also showed the
I
other
thought
day
we were gonna be
smiling
sitting here
before layout.
watching this try to run for the last 9 minutes.
Yeah, the layout button will generate that report with fake data. Now, I want to make sure I highlight that because almost every time it's going to show you gifts like this one in the 1990s. It's going to have funds that are not your funds. It's just a layout that's pulling from somewhere in the depths of Blackbaud. But I found that really useful to be able to see what do we have with those, if it's renewed, if it's not, and what that looks like. Oh, we're looking to see if people have upgraded or downgraded. Think that we would want to look at
Yeah, I'm
like
trying to think.
the
Is if Dues
membership
has
by
one.
categories, maybe. That one is I'm not sure which
Yeah.
one's going to show exactly which one you want, but I do know that was why I wanted to show the layout because I do think that layout is a great way to go through and see, okay, which one is actually showing the columns that I want to see um, without having to add in your data and wait on it to run the layout's a really good quick trick. Let me check the chat as well. I want to make sure if people have been adding questions, we haven't missed them.
Yeah, so I see a question about crystal reports. You're speaking my love language here. I absolutely loved making crystal reports way back in the day. Um, I don't imagine that your custom reports will be available. And I have absolutely no idea, but if I were to guess, I would say that your custom reports will not be available in WebView. As if you don't need to change them, you can still run them now if they were set up back in the day through database view. But I really don't know. But if I had to guess, the answer would be no.
That's what I said in the chat. Blackbud is pushing people more and more to use Power BI and the connector there for those kinds of reports. That is such a deep dive that there's no way we can cover that here today at all. But I just say that to say that may be the area you need to look into.
Yeah, I would grab one more question. I see. How do you post from RE to FE? Integration needs to be turned on. There's some administrative or some configuration that needs to take place before you're able to do it. But just to show you where the buttons are, under admin, there is a post to general ledger option here. And again, this is something that's very powerful because this will actually, if your configuration is done correct, it will send information to your financial edge. So don't do this in a vacuum either. Make sure you're bringing in the right people to the table the first time you're trying to set up your REFE integration. But this is a really good area to know about if the goal is to set up your REFE integration.
Um, we do have a question about the reports available in WebView. There are some standard reports that have been moved from database view to WebView here. This is a brief example of what we can see. We don't know what Blackbaud will bring over beyond this, but we do know this is live in our sandbox. It is live for some customers. Based on what Blackbaud is saying, they're rolling it out to all customers at some point in WebView, but what point you'll get that, I can't say. Hopefully that answers your question about that. And Power BI is a Microsoft tool that allows you to work with data and create custom reports.
The
It
new and
does
improved Crystal reports.
yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of a new and improved version of Crystal Reports, which is why there's a lot of layers to that.
Yeah.
So
So
Yes.
Yeah, again, a ton of questions in the chat. We're happy to, if you want to send us some follow-up emails, our email addresses will be on a future slide. Feel free to send us an email and ask us if we need anything we need to repeat about. Just a reminder, I will send out the recording from today, plus our slide deck to you all probably tomorrow. So there'll be some more information there. But before we go, we still have 3 minutes left. Just want to talk about some things coming up with us in the NPact world. For our higher ed folks, I guess maybe some independent schools as well, I saw on the attendee list. If you're planning on coming to Case Drive, Christine and I will be in New Orleans on Sunday, on a couple days from now.
Coming up.
We'll be down in New Orleans at the Case Drive conference. If you're there, please stop by. We have a special gift if you mentioned our Level Up webinar series. And the same with AFP Icon in Seattle?
Seattle.
In
Yep.
Seattle at the end of April. So we're super excited about seeing y'all in person. So if you're there, please stop by our booth and say hello. In March, we started our Financial Edge Level Up series. We had great attendance at that last week. So if you use Financial Edge, or if you have folks in your office that use Financial Edge, I will include this registration link in my follow-up email as well. Please send it to them. We had like 120 people or 140 people register for last week's for the first one. So we're super excited about the kind of the traction we're getting in that arena. And next month, for our next Razor's Edge Level Up webinar, we will bring our friends from Red Arc, Stu and Henrietta, who are amazing folks that make Letterbox and a number of other different things in the Blackbaud marketplace specific for Razor's Edge. But we're going to be talking about donor acknowledgments, receipting, tax statements, all those things around giving history. And some things, if you'd like to work with NPact, here are some of the ways that we help our clients. We do formalized database assessments. We do virtual and on-site training. All of our sessions can be recorded, so you can kind of start building up your library of information for other people in your office. And then we just kind of do consulting hours. All of our projects are custom scoped. So what we try to do, or what I like to say, is we knock down the barriers between your technology and delivering your mission, whatever that looks like. So our experts in Razor's Edge and Financial Edge have been in the industry for a number of years. A lot of people have worked at Blackbaud as well. So we have a really good skill set that we can bring to our clients. So if you have any interest in reaching out to us about potentially working with us, let me know and we can schedule a time for a call. Really quickly, I wanted to throw this poll up here. We had a huge amount of people that registered for today, and we're super excited about that. But we would love to know, how did you hear about this webinar? And so I'm going to launch this poll, and if you wouldn't mind answering for us, we want to be really targeted about our marketing for these different events that we do. So we would love for you to just let us know how you heard about it, so we can continue marketing in that arena. And sorry for the people I can't access the polls. I don't know why Teams is the way it is. All right. We're not going to launch this poll because we're out of time, but I at least want to see one more baseball pun for the road. Who's ready for us to help you hit a home run? Let me know if you are. Here's my email address. Here's Christine's email address. If you have any input on future topics, we'd love to hear about it. And thank you all so much for joining us today. And we will see you all next month.